Hi everybody, welcome back to Winging It. If you're joining in for the first time, you're very, very welcome. I'm so glad that you found us. My name's Rebecca and I'm going to be doing the tutorial that you're about to watch. And we're in week 12 and this is the third Sunday in March, and our third week prompt is always a nature-based prompt. So this week we're looking at blossom and we're focusing on blossoming trees. You might have already seen it if you follow me over on Instagram. So we're going to be going back in time first of all for our design ideas, and then we're going to be creating a beautiful blossoming tree together. Now our colour of the month is yellow and I'm going to be working on that. So little game for you, why not pause the video and comment down below what tree you think I'm going to be stitching to fit our prompt with our colour scheme. So I wonder how many people are going to guess right. All you're going to need this week is thread, and if you've got some textured thread that would be great, and I'm going to add a few beads in there as well just because I can't resist. So grab your bits and pieces and let's get stitching. I just want to go back in time a little bit to January when we made our winter tree, and if you remember we used stem stitch to create branches and then some straight stitches to put the little branches in, and then added some beads. And the idea of this one was to create negative space around the edge that helped form a circle. And so I wanted there to be some harmony across my pieces. So I'm going to do a similar thing today with our blossoming tree. So I'm using this design as my inspiration, but this time we're going to create a tree that's in blossom. Now it does mean that we're going to be using stem stitch predominantly to create the tree, and I'm going to go quite fast with this. If you need a refresher on how to do it and how to create shading, I will put a link to the January video where we made that tree in the top corner of the screen. So I'm going to start by making the trunk and branches. So I've got these sort of ochre colours. I know they are fundamentally brown, but I've gone for quite yellow brown. So I've got my mid-tone and I've got a darker tone, and then I've got a lighter colour. I might dig out another paler ochre. Yeah, I think this one will be better because it's along the same sort of colour family as that. So our trunk is going to be kept quite yellowish, and then I thought, I know most blossom is pink or white, but my favourite tree in blossom is a laburnum. So we're going to go with a sort of laburnum feel. It's not going to be the shape of a laburnum tree, but we're going to try and create those cascades of blossom flowers that you see on laburnum trees. And I'm again struggling for yellow resources, so I've managed to dig out some. They are really gold, but they've got a sort of yellowish quality to them. And in this pot here, I've got some bugle beads. Look, I'm doing the thing that I said not to do. But in amongst there's one or two little seed beads that are bright yellow. So I think I'm going to use those. So let's start with the trunk. I'm going to start with my mid-tone, and I'm going to use 2 strands. This time, just to help me, I might just sketch in roughly where my branches are going to go. So let's go with something like that, just to give me a guide of where to go. So I'm not going to demonstrate stem stitch here because we did do it in that January video. If you need to go back and have a look, you can pause, go and learn about stem stitch and then come back. But I'm just going to work my branches and trunk in exactly the same way that I did in January. So you get the idea. I'm going to work up the branches and then I'm going to add some shading on the left hand side and the underside of the branches, and some highlights on the right hand side and the top side of the branches. So I'll put the trunk and branches in, and then I'll come back and we'll talk about the next stage. Okay, so I've put in my branches, and I haven't put in as many small branches as I did with our winter tree, because we're going to cover up a lot of this space with our blossom. So I've got here a single strand of quite bright yellow. It's hard to see, but it's this thread here. So I've got a single strand. And if you think about laburnum trees, they're a bit like wisteria, so they have clusters of blossoms that hang in sort of strings. And so that's what we're going to try and create, and we're going to do that using chain stitch. So I'm going to start over here, and obviously my blossoms are going to fundamentally come from my branches, but I also want to fill in the space around the edge of my circle as well. So I'm going to use this single strand of yellow to create some little chains. That are going to fall down from the branches. And I've got some different shades of yellow, so they won't all be this bright yellow, but that's what I want to start with. I'm very fond of laburnum trees because my grandma had 2 in her front garden when I was a child, and I just used to love it in the spring when they came into blossom. And we also, quite naughtily, I didn't realise that they were very, very poisonous, but we used to collect the little seed pods as well, and that was just fun. Didn't do anything with them, just collected them all up in little clusters, popped them open, that sort of thing. So I'm not going to make them all exactly the same length, because I want it to look quite natural and organic. So I'm hoping that you can see there my little strings of laburnum blossom. So I'm going to carry on and put some of those in, and then we will come back and have a look at the next stage. Okay, so that's where we're up to so far. So I've done some little chains in that bright yellow thread that I started with, and I've also added some in pearl cotton. And what I thought we could do now is create some texture, so this is more 3-dimensional. And I've got this fabulous thread here that's really textured, and it's a mixture of pink and orange and yellow. And what I've done is separate out some sections of yellow, just a little bit. Now, I got this from somebody called Kate Slaughter at Yarndale back last September, and I've been looking for an opportunity to use this textured thread. So that's her details. It's katescloths.co.uk. I'm not entirely certain how we're going to attach it yet, but let's work it out together. I like to try and show you that I am fully winging it as well as you. So maybe I'm just going to try sewing through the thread. So this might work, it might not, we'll have to see. So I've got a tiny little section here, and because it's sort of twisted, I can get my needle in between the fibres. So I'm going to sort of sew through it. and try and catch it down onto my work. I might just go over that another couple of times just to make it really secure. And I'm just going to trim that tufty bit off at the end so that it sits along my circle. Maybe it's a little tiny bit too long. I've attached my little three-dimensional bit there, so I think let's just go with it. I'm quite liking it so far. So let's cut another little piece and add it somewhere else. I'm just trying to get a bit of balance across the tree, and so that there's a balance of colours and textures all the way around. Where can we put one? Let's put one over here. So again, I'm sewing through the twists of that yarn. So I'm almost treating it like a bead, I suppose. I'm going through the centre and then just stitching over the top a couple of times. I don't want to hold them all flat because I want them to be mobile on my piece. So I think we'll get 2 out of this piece. I really like it. I like how sort of crazy it looks. So I've got some texture on there now, which I think is quite a lot of fun. So the last thing I wanted to do was get some of these beads on just to add a bit of sparkle. I've been missing my beads recently. So what I think I'm going to do, let's try something and see if it works. I've got a bugle bead there and then a seed bead, and I'm putting them both on my thread at the same time, and yeah, I want them to hang free. So I'm sorry for the pause there, I'm just trying to work out what to do. So I've just separated out, I'm just trying to do this in a way that you can see. I'm just going to make a little gap between the seed bead and the bugle bead, and then I'm going to take my thread back up inside the bugle bead. And what that will do is it will mean that the seed bead acts as a sort of stopper on the end, so they'll be able to hang free. I need to just make sure it's right down on the felt. So I'm going to just take my needle back through close to where it came out, and then I'm just going to manoeuvre it a little bit so that it sits up against the felt. So if I pull it too tight, it will stand proud, which I don't want. So I just want to tighten it just enough that it hangs, and then I'm going to tie it off at the back just so that it doesn't move. So again, I'm making little sort of hanging trails of colour, just like on a laburnum tree. And I'm just trying to do that in several different ways. So again, a bugle bead. Bugle beads are these cylindrical ones, and then a seed bead. Back up the bugle bead, needle through, and then just gently manoeuvre the beads so that they sit where I want them to, and then tie it off at the back so they don't move. And again, I'm just looking for places that need a bit of something extra. I should say I'm just using a straw needle, milliner's needle, same thing, and a single strand of just normal embroidery thread, but just sewing cotton, that would work as well. Right, I think I've decided they're not sitting just quite how I want them to, so I'm just going to catch them down into place because they're rising up a little bit too much. So all I'm doing is adding a little stitch that goes over the top of the beads and sits in between the bugle bead and the seed bead. So I'm just going to add in a few more beads and then we'll come back and do the finishing touches. Okay, so I'm just going to press that from the back. Remember, when you're using beads, press it face down so that you don't damage the beads. So there's our finished piece, our laburnum tree in blossom, and we've used our lovely textured yarn there, and we followed the same pattern as our winter tree. So if I just pull it back in, and you can see the two of them together, I think that looks just magic. I'm really pleased with that one. I think that's my favourite one so far in our yellow series. Remember, next week is our live stream stitch along, so don't forget to tune in for that at 2:30. Hope you've enjoyed that. Do share your versions of your tree in blossom. I can't wait to see what you all come up with. If you use hashtags FSH Winging It and FSH Winging It 12, we'll all be able to see each other's work, and do like and comment on the work that you see just to encourage each other. So happy crafting, have a great week, and I'll see you for our live stream next Sunday. Bye.